Hey, welcome everybody. My name's Hasten, and I want to start by congratulating you for taking that first step to bringing your vision, your dream, into reality. Today, I'm going to share with you my ultimate guide for building a killer strategic plan that'll see you bringing your vision from just a dream to being your new reality. That's my goal today, and hopefully that's your goal as well. So you probably don't know who I am. So let me start by introducing myself and telling you a bit about myself. I've got over 10 years experience working in many different sectors and many different industries, from technology industry to professional services, and now I specialize in not-for-profits. And my job has always been to help these organizations of all sizes to bring their vision to life by helping them build a strategic plan that'll actually see that happen. And I've mastered this skill over the years, and it doesn't actually come natural to me. And I'm sure it doesn't come natural to you, which is probably why you sign up to today's workshop. But don't worry, what I will be sharing with you today will give you the tools to fast track you to bringing your vision from just a dream to being your reality by building a killer strategic plan to see that happen. I promise not to hold anything back or to leave you on a hook or to have a massive sales pitch at the end. All I want to do is to give you the tools and the information that you need to building your killer strategic plan. So how does that sound? So how this video would work is basically I'm going to go through my 5 steps of building a killer strategic plan. And after each step, I want you to pause and write down everything that I've talked about and things that kind of jumped out at you and actions that you want to take. And after that, actually take this one pager and actually action it and bring your vision to life. So do we have a deal? Hopefully we do. And as I promised you, if you work all the way to the end with me and stick with me, I promised you to have as a prize for you at the end, as a bit of a reward for you for sticking it out. All right, so let's get started. So as I said, there's 5 steps in my guide. And the first step is clarify your vision. It seems obvious, doesn't it? Your plan has to work towards something, and that something is your vision. But more often than not, we're so busy with doing things, and we're so busy with doing things in our organization, and we forget what or where we're actually trying to go to, or what we're actually trying to work towards. And this is particularly true for organizations that have been operating for a number of years. They get tied down with doing this and doing that and organizing this and organizing that they actually forget what they are actually trying to do and what they actually set out to do in the first place. Who's experienced this? Put your hand up if you have. I have. And I remember a time when I was actually chatting with a client of mine about their organization. They run an animal farm, and they run many programs for youths, and they run a homestay, they run a counseling service. And when I actually asked them, what is their vision? What do they actually want to achieve? What are they working towards? They kind of fumbled their way through, and I actually realized at the end of it, they weren't sure what they were actually trying to do. They were just doing all of these different good things, and trust me, they were really good things, but they just didn't know what they were working towards. And I think that's why it's so important to just take a moment to just stop and ask the question, what is my vision? What am I working towards? Whether you're an established organization or whether you're a new organization trying to start up, ask yourself to articulate what is your vision. And often I ask my clients to actually go, well, take half a day off, away from your normal day-to-day, and ask yourself, what is my vision? And it almost sounds kind of counterproductive, doesn't it? Because I'm taking more time off, and I almost feel like I'm wasting time. But trust me, it will do you wonders. Ask yourself, why does your organization exist? What difference are you trying to make? And maybe at the end of it, you come up with this vision that seems completely unattainable, and that's okay. Because that's what the strategic plan is for. The strategic plan is to take you from where you are now to where you want to be and where you see yourself in your vision. So all right, that's step 1. Take a moment, pause the video, so that you can write down all the notes and everything that kind of popped into your head. Write them down before we begin step 2. All right, so step 2, establish your process. This is probably the step that I see most people get wrong. Most people think that strategic planning is a task, it's a workshop, it's a one-day thing where you get all your teams together for a workshop, and all of a sudden, after that day workshop or half-day workshop, you've got this magical strategic plan. But sorry to break it to you, it's not. It's not like that. Strategic planning is a process. Let me say that again. Building your strategic plan is a process, and it's not a task, but it's a process. So before you go and bring all your pieces of your strategic plan together, you need to be clear what the process is. One of the obvious questions that many people ask is, so should the board come up with the strategic plan, or should management come up with the strategic plan? I wonder what your answer is, but I believe that the answer is both, and it has to be both. It can look differently for different organizations depending on your size and how you're structured and how you're organized, but here's a common process that I believe can be applied in every organization of all sizes. So let me take you through it. First is the board needs to be primarily responsible for articulating the vision, articulating the values, and be the key to explaining what that vision is. They want to be the ones that kind of, articulate what are the kind of big aspirations that you guys have as an organization. And this needs to be communicated clearly to your management team. And so step 2, well, now that management knows the goals, it's now their job to go and build a plan to say, well, okay, board, this is what you want to achieve. All right, how are we going to get there? What are the steps we need to take? What are the initiatives we need to have to actually bring us from where we are now to where you've articulated in your vision? And why does management do that and not board? Because management are the ones that is actually going to action it. They're the ones actually on the ground doing the job. And so they are the one that is actually best placed to articulate what can be done, what can't be done, what resources they have to bring that vision to life. Next step is to review the plan. The management has drafted the plan, and that plan needs to be presented to the board, to be challenged, to be stress tested, to be tweaked, to make sure that it is actually in line with the vision and it's realistic but aspirational at the same time. Depending on how big your organization is, you may want to actually have a couple of rounds of review. Your management team may actually go away and do the plan, present back to the board, and the board may actually have feedback, and they want management to take particular actions, and again they take that back to the board. But usually coming out of this process, there will be further actions for management. And as I said, you want it to be a back and throw process, but you don't want to do that too many times because it is quite time consuming and it is quite tiring. And the next step is to measure. I agree with the board and also at the operational level how you want to be measuring progress and how you want to be measuring key metrics, measuring key KPIs, measuring targets. Make sure that you are not just progressing, but more importantly, actually progressing towards the right direction. And that's what these measures are going to tell you whether you are actually moving towards the right direction. The last and final long step is execution. It's all good and well to have a plan on a page and a 30, 40 page strategic plan. But really, if this plan isn't executed well, it really is just a good idea. And there are 2 key components in this that you really want to establish. And the first one is accountability. You want to know who owns this plan, who's accountable for delivering this plan, who's accountable for particular KPIs. And the second component is communication. I'll speak more about both of these later on, but really that's, the second process. Oh, and one last thing, set a timeline. That is going to be key, and you want to stick to that timeline. And as I said, I'll expand more on each of these in a sec. But just stop for a moment and pause the video and write down everything that's kind of come to your mind and things that's kind of popped out in what I said. So third step, building your plan. All right, so stick with me as I promise. If you get to the end of this video, I'm going to have a surprise for you. You not only would know how to build a killer strategic plan, but I'm going to give you something extra, completely free of charge, to reward you for finishing this video. So step 3, building your plan. This is where the rubber really hits the road and the fun stuff happens. Now that we've agreed on the process, it's now management's job to bring together this plan to see your organization work towards your vision. Here are the 3 top exercises that I always do with my clients to help them build their own killer strategic plan. And hopefully if you do it as well, you'll be able to build your killer strategic plan. It's really quite simple. I call it looking backwards, looking down, and looking forwards. So looking backwards, what does that mean? This is where you look back at your organization and assess where you've been and what you've done and who you are as an organization. And tools like SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, is really helpful here. This would set the foundation for your plan as you begin to look forward towards your vision. If you're completely new organization, don't worry, it's still worth doing. Think about what may be your strengths, what may be your weaknesses, and what are the opportunities in your sector, in your industry, and what are the opportunities and threats that'll face your organization. Look to similar organization to yourself as a reference guide for what are some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that your organization might face and have. So second step, looking down. This is where you do a stock take of your organization. Look at your resources, the people, your target market, your culture within your organization. And this is so important because these are the tools that you have to bring your vision to life. And looking forward, the most exciting part and probably the one that takes the longest, this is where you begin to look towards your vision and say, well, what do I need to do to bring my vision to life, to bring me from where I am today to where I want to be in, say, 12 to 24 months' time? Some helpful questions that I always find helpful to ask is, what actions do I need to do? What actions do I need to stop? That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you always think about doing, but we don't often think about what we need to stop doing. And what are the things that are hindering us from moving forward? There may be things that you do now that is actually hindering you from bringing your vision to life. You might want to ask, well, what resources do I need that I don't have at the moment that I need to bring in? It might be people or funding or space, etc. But this is part where you get creative and start innovating your way towards your vision. Those are the 3 exercises, but what about the components that need to go into your plan? Well, you may have more, but these are my top 3 must-have components in any killer strategic plan. First one, a financial plan. Numbers are the most obvious indicators for your organization, for the health of your organization. Make sure that you have a killer strategic plan that has a killer financial plan in it that is attached and aligned to your strategy. It usually comes in the form of a budget or a long-term forecast. This plan must, and I really want to stress this, it must complement your strategy. It must tell the same narrative as your strategic plan. And second is initiatives. These are the big projects that you want to embark on to really move a step by step towards your vision. Depending on how big your organization is, I'd suggest really keeping this step to really 3 to 4 initiatives, not any more than that. And this isn't to say you don't have other initiatives or projects on the side that you will do to bring your vision to life, but really these are your big ticket items. These are the items that will really move the needle for you. And lastly, every killer strategic plan must have a roadmap. So more specifically, a time-bound roadmap. It's all good and well to have a plan, but if it's not time-bound, that is mapped out clearly, it will be poorly executed because people won't know what they need to achieve. People won't know when they need to achieve particular things. And so pull together all the initiatives, map it out in a clear time-bound plan that'll see you working towards your vision. In this roadmap, you should include how you'll be measuring progress, how you'll be measuring key metrics, how you'll be measuring key KPIs, how you'll be measuring key targets. What are your targets? To make sure that you are progressing, but more importantly, progressing in the right direction and at the right pace. All right, so again, pause for a moment and take down any notes that you've got and write down any thoughts that you've got as well before we move on to step 4. So second last step, stick with me. I've got a killer surprise for you right at the end, and trust me, you're really gonna love it. This step is quite straightforward, and which is where management presents the plan back to the board and then have them challenge it, stress test it, comb through it from start to finish, and actually really make an assessment as to whether they believe that this strategic plan would help them bring their vision to life. But one of the things I want to say in this is presentation is key. That is my top tip. Presentation is key. You can't just hand them a 30 to 40 page document and expect them to go, all right, cool, here's our master strategic plan. Because a 30 to 40 page strategic plan is either going to leave them disengaged or just completely lost. What you want to do is tell them a narrative, tell them a story. Take them on a journey from where they are today to where they will be in 12 or 24 months' time. Show them the key sites along the way. Everyone loves a good story. Put up your hand if you love a good story. I can imagine that all your hands are up right now. This is the analogy that I love using and telling my clients is this. Imagine yourself as a tour guide. When you go on a tour, you expect to know where you're going, but you don't really know the path. Your customers don't really know the path. Your job as a tour guide is to show them the path and to show them the sights along the way and show them the path that you've planned so that they know, oh, cool. All right, I'm going to see these things. And actually, after 3-4 days, I'm going to get to my destination. Your job is to play tour guide for them, to show them where they're going to get to, but more importantly, how they're going to get there and kind of the sights that they're going to see along the way. And so really, remember your job in this task, in this step, is to act as a tour guide for the board. So if you're not sure how to do this, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have a free conversation with you. We offer free consultations for all people who give us a call. So let us know if you need a hand. But for now, take a moment, pause the video and stop and write down any notes that you have. And then we'll begin to look at our last step. All right, our last and final step, step 5, execution. Stick with me. I congratulate you for completing the video all the way to step 4, but we're really at the tip of the iceberg. We're at the last step. And I want to remind you, I've got a killer surprise for you at the end, and you're absolutely going to love it. So last step, step 5, execution. A good plan on paper, like I was saying, is nothing but a good idea. If it's not implemented or executed, it really is just a good idea. But before I go on to talk about top 3 tips for executing your plan, I really want to stress that executing your plan is not linear, but cyclical. You're probably wondering, Hasten, what do you mean by that? That it's not linear, but cyclical? Well, again, you got to understand that execution is a constant process of doing something and correcting and doing again and measuring and correcting again. And it's not a linear process where you just go, you do and something happens and you achieve your vision. It's not, it's a cyclical process. It requires you to do, to assess, to act, to correct, to measuring and to correcting again and to acting some more and to correcting that again. And it's really a cyclical process. Remember that it is a cyclical process and it's not a linear task. So here are my top 3 things that you need to execute your plan flawlessly. 1, commitment. Your board and management needs to be 110% committed to this plan. And commitment needs to start at the leadership level. If they are committed to the plan, when time gets tough or you come across roadblocks, the team, the ones who are executing the plan, will naturally follow the leader. This also creates alignment across the organization, because when everyone is committed to the largest strategic plan of the organization, you will all be moving as one amazing and immeasurable force that will bring your organization towards your vision. And the second is communication. A strategic plan is a living organism. You really got to think of it as a living organism. And it will evolve over time. There'll be new challenges, new opportunities, new environmental factors that will influence your strategic plan. So communication allows you to align all your pieces in your organization, all the people in your organization, even when all these factors changes over time. Second thing I want to say about communication is this: you must communicate clearly to your teams your organization's strategy, because they need to know how their task fits in your strategic plan and how it helps your organization move forward towards that vision. And the third thing is measure and monitor. Strategy execution relies on continuously assessing progress towards your vision. It's not just a set and forget exercise. You can't just set out to do something and forget about it. For this to happen, you really need to agree on clear and measurable KPIs for your teams, so that your teams know what they're working towards, and so that your teams know what to report back on. Your teams should report regularly on KPIs so that you can correct course where necessary. This needs to take place, I'd say, as regular as weekly for some, depending on the KPI, or monthly or quarterly. You can't just measure once a year, because that won't actually give you the opportunity to correct course and to assess whether you're moving in the right direction and at the right pace. So here's an example I always give people. If your organization wants to grow your customer base by 30%, you need to be measuring things like this on a regular basis. You need to measure customer retention rates, you need to measure churn rates, you need to measure customer acquisition rates. You can't just measure those things once a year. You need to almost measure those things weekly to know whether you're actually moving towards your goal, whether you're actually going to hit that 30% in a year's time. So that's it. Here's my ultimate guide to building a killer strategic plan that'll bring your vision to life. And I want to congratulate you for making it all the way to the end. And as I've promised, I've got a gift and reward for you. Which is this: when you book your free consultation with us through the Book Now button at the bottom left-hand corner, quote Ultimate Guide, and I will double your free consultation time. That's a whopping 90 minutes of free consultation. That's an hour and a half. That's 90 minutes of free consultation if you quote Ultimate Guide when you make your booking. And I promised you not to hold anything back or to leave you on the hook, because my job is I want to provide as much value and as much information to you as possible, whether you decide to buy our service or not, because I want to see you improve your organization. Again, quote Ultimate Guide when you book, and I'll double your free consultation time to 90 minutes. That's a whopping hour and a half of free consultation. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me, and I've loved taking you through my killer guide to building a strategic plan. Hopefully now you've got the tools and the skills and the knowledge to building your killer strategic plan. Happy planning, team. Hustle on. And again, book now, and I'll speak to you on our free consultation. Thank you.